Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Selamat datang di Kepo Kirim Email Podcast bersama saya Fikri Fotullah. Episode kali ini sangat spesial karena didukung oleh Running Remote, ya, sebuah konferensi di mana berkumpulnya perusahaan-perusahaan yang membangun tim secara remote, ya, secara yang di mana semua timnya bekerja jarak jauh gitu ya. Dan event ini sudah di saat saya rekam ini ya tahun 2019, eventnya sudah di tahun keduanya, jadi dimulai tahun lalu tahun 2018 ya. Dan mudah-mudahan ada yang ke depannya, amin ya. Jadi berkumpul dari seluruh dunia, malah pesertanya banyak kan bukan dari Indonesia ya, tapi dari perusahaan-perusahaan luar yang berkumpul di Indonesia, yang kemudian berdiskusi dan membahas tentang bagaimana membangun tim secara remote. Ya, acara di Bali selama 2 hari di Ubud, dan pada episode kali ini saya mengundang teman saya namanya Igor Borushko, seorang berdarah Rusia yang lama tinggal di London, tapi sekarang menetap di Bali ya, menetap di Ubud, sudah jadi orang Indonesia mungkin ya. Ini menarik sekali karena saya sudah lama sekali ingin bertemu dengan Igor, tapi sampai saya rekam ini belum kesampaian. Kita ngobrol jarak jauh, teleponan, chatting, gitu terus setiap hari. Dan akhirnya saya putuskan udah saya invite deh ke podcast untuk diskusi tentang kerja remote dan diskusi tentang running remote ya. Karena saat saya rekam ini running remote adalah konferensi tentang membangun perusahaan secara remote terbesar di dunia ya, dan mengundang pembicara-pembicara kelas dunia juga seperti Joel dari Buffer ya, saat tahun 2019 yang datang itu Andrew Warner dari Mixergy dan lain-lain ya. Banyak sekali nama-nama besar di sana. Ya, ada Atlassian yang mungkin Anda familiar dengan Trello ya. Ada Todoist dan lain-lain ya. Jadi yang datang memang bukan kaleng-kaleng tanda petik ya, karena Igor sangat selektif memilih pembicaranya. Pembicara yang diundang itu yang sudah berada di level tertentu ya, baik itu dari jumlah tim harus di atas jumlah tertentu. Jadi kalau yang jumlah timnya mungkin seperti kirim email masih 20-an itu belum bisa hadir lah gitu ya. Saya pribadi sebenarnya diundang sama Igor ke acara ini, tapi bentrok dengan jadwal saya, jadi saya tidak bisa hadir. Dan sebagai apa ya, saya tadinya ingin datang dan menceritakan bagaimana konferensi itu kepada Anda, tapi karena saya tidak bisa hadir, maka saya hadirkan Igornya ke podcast ini. Jadi podcast ini pada dasarnya podcast dua bahasa ya. Jadi Igor akan menjawab pertanyaan-pertanyaan saya dalam bahasa Inggris karena bahasa Indonesia beliau belum begitu lancar ya. Toh kalau Anda emang ingin bekerja remote, Anda harus ahli banget bahasa Inggris. Kalau Anda ingin datang ke Renang Remote, Anda harus bisa bahasa Inggris. Jadi ya ini sekalian manfaatkan ini sebagai ajang Anda untuk belajar bahasa Inggris jika Anda masih belum paham bahasa Inggris ya. Tapi kalau Anda ingin mendapatkan insight bahasa Indonesianya, itu sudah saya bikin versi tertulisnya ya. Itu bisa Anda lihat langsung di website. Itu alamatnya kepo.blog garis miring 48 ya. Saya ulangi, kepo.blog garis miring 48. Jadi Anda silahkan datang ke sana untuk melihat, mungkin bukan terjemahan kata per kata ya, bukan artinya Igor ngomong apa ya, terus saya terjemahkan, tidak ya, tapi saya ambil intisari atau insight-nya yang mungkin penting untuk Anda perhatikan dari apa yang dikatakan oleh Igor. Jadi jika Anda mungkin tidak bisa keep up atau tidak bisa mengikuti percakapan saya dengan Igor karena Igor merespon dalam bahasa Inggris, silakan ke kepo.blog garis miring 48, lihat semua intisari yang di situ ya, dan dengarkan episode ini sampai akhir, karena di bagian akhir itu Igor memberikan penawaran khusus untuk running remote, baik khusus bagi orang Indonesia ya. Jadi harga ini hanya berlaku bagi harga orang Indonesia ya. Running remote sendiri itu sekitar $849 kalau nggak salah untuk peserta dari luar Indonesia, tapi untuk orang Indonesia itu Igor punya penawaran khusus. Dan khusus untuk Anda pendengar Kepo, ada penawaran yang lebih khusus lagi dari penawaran orang Indonesia gitu loh ya. Jadi ada halaman khusus untuk orang Indonesia itu setengah harga. Dari harga yang Anda dengar tadi itu setengah harga. Ini jangan lupa ya, ini untuk event 2 hari ya. Jadi Anda di hotel mewah di Ubud, menghadap langsung ke pantai. Nanti Igor akan menceritakan bagaimana hotelnya ya. Menghadap langsung ke pantai, jadi sambil Anda melihat pembicara yang di panggung, Anda akan bisa melihat langsung pemandangan yang luar biasa sebagai background si pembicara itu. Jadi panggungnya membelakangi pantai ya. Lalu dan sudah include ya standar lah yang makan, snack dan lain-lain. Jadi Dan ada kupon khusus untuk Anda yang mendengar ini sampai habis. Ya, jadi harga yang tadi udah dipotong setengah itu dipotong lagi 20%. Ya, dan ini khusus untuk pendengar kepo ya. Jadi ini kuponnya tidak bisa Anda dapetin di mana-mana, karenanya dengarkan sampai habis atau langsung menuju, jika Anda nggak sabar nih ya sampai habis, jika Anda nggak mau mendengar ceritanya Igor, silakan menuju ke kepo.blog/48. Di situ Anda bisa melihat linknya ya, terus Anda bisa melihat detail siapa aja pembicara Running Remote tahun lalu dan tahun ini. Anda bisa menonton rekaman episode pembicara dari tahun lalu. Ya, dan Anda bisa melihat kupon untuk datang sendiri dan networking ya. Jadi bukan cuma untuk belajar aja ya, tapi ini juga kesempatan networking dengan perusahaan-perusahaan besar dari seluruh dunia ya. Jika Anda ingin ketemu langsung dengan Amir, CEO-nya Todoist ya, yang sangat luar biasa menurut saya, insight-insightnya itu bisa Anda ketemuin langsung, dan orang-orang yang lain juga, termasuk mungkin sama Igor ya, ketemu ya, karena Igor ada di sana tentu saja ya, karena ya beliau panitianya lah gitu ya. Jadi ini kesempatan Anda. Jadi kalau cuma belajar ya mungkin bisa Anda dapetin di mana-mana, tapi networkingnya ini yang mahal, tanda petik menurut saya ya. Kapan lagi seluruh perusahaan ini bisa datang ngumpul, dan mereka sudah terbiasa bekerja jarak jauh. Jadi jika Anda ketemu dengan mereka di acara itu, Anda bisa langsung melanjutkan kerjasamanya itu jarak jauh, karena mereka udah terbiasa ya. Kesempatan yang luar biasa menurut saya. Ya, dan ini event yang mungkin tahun depan itu ada kemungkinan Igor bikin ini tidak hanya di Indonesia, dan mungkin belum tentu di Indonesia lagi. Jadi ini kesempatan tahun 2019 Anda datang. Jikapun kemungkinan tahun depan ada di Indonesia, Igor rencananya akan membuat ini di negara lain ya. Ada rencana seperti itu ya. Karena Indonesia jauh tanda petik dari Eropa dan dari Amerika, dan banyak peserta-peserta dari Amerika dan dari Eropa juga pengen datang, karenanya Igor mungkin akan membawa konferensi ini ke sana, karena sangat berhasil di Bali tahun lalu tuh pesertanya ratusan orang ya, dan tahun ini itu lebih banyak lagi ya. Oke. Dan saya akan mulai interviewnya sebentar lagi. Jadi saya akan menanyakan, saya memulai pertanyaan dengan ya seperti biasa, yang meminta Igor memperkenalkan dirinya ya. Jadi Anda tahu siapa Igor. Igor sebelumnya merupakan seorang profesional di London, yang kemudian dia jenuh ya bekerja, jenuhnya tuh di perjalanan ke kantornya, malah bukan bekerja di kantornya. Jadi dia menghabiskan 3 jam setiap hari hanya untuk di jalan gitu loh, yang ngabisin waktu banget. Jadi dia satu hari memberanikan diri untuk minta izin sama bosnya, boleh nggak ini kerjaan saya bawa ke rumah. Bosnya minta dia menandatangani surat perjanjian, dan kemudian dia kerja di rumah ya. Ini tahun 2009, jadi belum ada istilah mungkin kerja remote saat itu ya. Masih ada mungkin istilahnya freelance gitu ya. Belum ada kerja orang dibayar full tapi kerjanya nggak di kantor, tuh belum ada dulu ya. Dan berhasil, dan semenjak saat itu Igor terus eksplorasi bagaimana kerja remote, kemudian pindah ke Bali ya, dan kemudian membangun Running Remote. Lebih enak kalau Igor yang cerita. Jadi tanpa basa-basi lagi, dengarkan ini sampai habis ya, karena ada kupon yang khusus di belakang, nanti akan dijelaskan sama Igor, dan ya saya akan jelaskan juga ya. Ini dia Igor Borusko dari Running Remote.
Hi everyone, my name is Igor and I'm the co-founder and producer at Running Remote Conference, which is the world's largest conference on how to build and scale remote teams, and it's held in Bali. I'm responsible for ensuring that we get the best content for founders of remote teams presented at the event in Bali. I also work remotely, and I have been working remotely for approximately 10 years. And that is one of the reasons why I founded this conference, is because I really believe in remote work, and I believe that companies can significantly scale, especially at the early stage, if they don't invest too much money into an office space, and actually invest money into people, and realize that there can be many more funds available for growth rather than sustaining an office.
Oke, selanjutnya kita akan mendengar cerita Igor bagaimana dia memulai ya kerja remote ya. Dan ini ada pelajaran yang bagus sekali yang bisa Anda ambil ya. Jadi awalnya Igor tidak bekerja langsung remote gitu nyampe Indonesia, tapi masih mencari pekerjaan yang sifatnya lokal ya. Ini dia detailnya.
So I have adopted remote work because I enjoy living where I choose to live, not having to commute to an office space. So I'm Russian by blood, but I grew up in London, and London is a very busy and a very hectic place. And I spent a couple of years after I graduated university traveling to an office and commuting, and my job was around sales, marketing and business development, and I was spending around 3 hours per day on commute, and by the time I got to work I was already feeling quite annoyed because there were many people in the train and sometimes I couldn't get a seat. So my motivation level of going to work was never at 100%. And when I was in the office, a lot of the times, even if you're a little bit sick or under the weather, I still had to go to the office. And in that mood, I just found that I wasn't really productive. So I started asking a couple of my bosses in London whether I could take this work at home, whether I don't have to travel for 3 hours. Now, this was 2009, and freelancing as such was such a new trend that some of my bosses were reluctant to do this. However, I had convinced them to do this, and they allowed me to sign non-confidentiality forms, basically non-disclosure forms, that if I was to take some working documents home, that I'm not going to be sharing it with all of my neighbors and everything, and whatever stays in my computer stays private. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the fact that I can, be at home and be close to my fridge, wearing the clothes that I want, wake up in the morning and, just look forward to going downstairs, opening my computer and not having to go to the office and not having to commute. And quite often, actually, when I'm in the office, I used to wear headphones because a lot of noise in the office used to distract me from being focused on my task. A lot of the times, people will come and start chatting to me and I'd start chatting to them. So realistically, I was productive probably around 2 or 3 hours per day. Whereas at home, I have zero distractions. And of course, it requires a certain level of discipline that you don't switch on some kind of TV channel while you're working, and you don't play too much with your kids or pets. It does require discipline, but nevertheless, I was productive rather than 2 or 3 hours. I was productive for 6 hours, and so the work output was higher because I was happier. And so I just really wanted to continue that. And I always loved Asia. I've been traveling in Asia before that. So Indonesia was one of my favorite countries. And one of my dreams was like, well, I'm going to make a move. I'm going to move to Indonesia and I'm going to try and get some kind of job and maybe a remote job. And so in 2009, I'd moved to Indonesia. And remote work was a bit difficult to find. So I ended up getting an office in a jungle office. Getting a job in a jungle office, which was Green School Bali, and it's an amazing office. It's made of bamboo. I was sitting in the jungle, so it didn't really feel like I was in an office, and I was dealing with a lot of American clients as well. So I left Green School as director of sales and marketing from there in 2011, and I opened an account on Upwork. And since then, it's been an amazing ride because I ended up working in interesting companies that are not based in Indonesia because unfortunately I just couldn't find the jobs that I wanted in Indonesia. I wanted to learn online marketing, and I was able to do that at home, and I was able to live in a place that I love. I was able to choose when I work. If I was sick, for example, I wasn't forced to go to the office. Nobody was expecting me. I just could take a day off and then work whenever I want. So that freedom that really impacted my work-life balance was, something that was the biggest value I had ever seen in the professional world. And I didn't want to stop that. So, I just kept on going, and I ended up working for a team of 90 people, full-time remote, in 27 countries. And that team was Time Doctor. It's a time tracking tool for remote teams. From where I had the idea of the conference, and I left Time Doctor and I have been running the conference since.
Satu hal yang mungkin sering saya ingatkan ya saat berdiskusi tentang kerja remote adalah kerja remote ini mirip diet ya. Jadi seperti diet itu mungkin tidak cocok untuk semua orang. Ya, ada diet A yang cocok sama Anda, mungkin nggak cocok sama saya. Ada diet yang cocok sama saya, mungkin nggak cocok sama Anda ya. Dan begitu juga dengan orang lain. Nah, Buat saya sih membangun tim remote itu prinsipnya seperti ini. Ya, tidak cocok untuk semua orang. Jadi ada tantangan-tantangan yang harus Anda sadari di awal saat Anda memutuskan, oke, kita nggak usah pakai kantor misalnya seperti kirim email gitu ya. Dan kita akan membangun full tim kita itu semuanya terdistribusi dari semua kota, terserah mereka mau kerja di mana gitu kan ya. Nah, ada tantangan-tantangannya dan saya minta Igor atau saya bertanya sama Igor, menurut Igor tantangannya apa sih ya?
You know, it's not all kind of butterflies. Remote work does have challenges, and it is not for everyone. Just, you know, the listeners of this podcast, I just wanted to express that quite clearly, that, you know, you really have to ask yourself, is this something for you? A lot of people, you know, they do enjoy office space and they can't be by themselves. They have to, you know, be social, and especially extroverted people. So, you know, remote work is mainly driven by developers, designers. So these are really people who kind of, you know, they don't need anyone. They just go into deep think mode with their computer. And most of the time that I found that the nature of their character was introvert. I am extrovert, but I do enjoy having my own space and my own time. So you just need to ask yourself, is it really for you? And one of the main challenges is that people think it's great, you know, I'm going to go work remotely wherever I want, and then they're unable to manage those expectations of being constantly motivated and being self-disciplined. You know, you're in bed, nobody's telling you to wake up and go to work, and you have to catch a train. You really have to push yourself out of bed because you want to succeed in your job. And some people don't have that. Some people, you know, need some external stimuli. So one of the challenges that I have seen within Time Doctor in particular before founding Running Remote was we had a lot of people, you know, submitting their resumes for jobs, remote jobs for an American company. And then a couple of months later, we can see that they're not performing as well. And then in the end, they will just come back to us and say, look, it's not really working out for me. I've got my kids that are distracting me. You know, my connection at home is not great. I feel like I'm alone. And so they basically quit and went back to normal jobs. So it's far from, you know, one size fits all. You really have to understand whether this is something that you really want to do. And, you know, your responsibility levels go up immensely. Because you can't swivel around the chair and ask your neighbor at the desk, oh, you know, how do I get this task done? You're going to have to write a message on Slack. And when you're writing a message on Slack, you're probably going to think about it like 3 times. You know, oh, is that person online or maybe offline, or am I going to disturb them, or maybe I can work out the issue myself. So it's kind of much more difficult, paradoxically, to write a message on Slack to your colleague rather than swivel your chair and ask them when you're sitting next to them shoulder to shoulder. So some of the biggest challenges are, of course, loneliness as well, you know, feeling a little bit alienated. Especially there are companies that have hybrid models. So, you know, just to kind of take a step back, there are different types of remote teams. Some teams are fully remote, so 100% distributed. So nobody is sitting in an office. Like, for example, Time Doctor still has 2 co-founders. One is in Australia, one is in Canada. And the rest of 88 people are all over the world in 27 countries. So that's a fully distributed team. Then there are remote first teams. So that's typically when the majority of the staff are working in a remote space wherever they want to be. You know, is it at home or you want to go and work in a co-working space? You know, all of that is still remote work. But some of your executive team or maybe the developers or maybe customer support, they sit in an office. So that's a remote first model where you have some people in an office. Then you have hybrid teams where these are like companies like Atlassian, for example. You know, I think they have 8 locations, which are office locations. But then you can choose if you want to go to the office or not. And sometimes for a particular project, they would hire a remote team all over the world and just assemble it online. And so they would essentially be running a hybrid model where they have both, you know, an office and remote stuff. And that's actually the most popular and the most common model right now. It's used by Google, by Facebook, GitHub. They all have amazing offices, so you can really choose, do you want to be in an office or do you want to be working at home? And so one of the biggest challenges, of course, is when you don't have this option to go to an office if your company is not hybrid. Then what happens, if somebody is sitting in office in a hybrid team, you may feel like, these guys get a privilege because they're there with the CEO or the co-founder, and I'm here by myself, sitting at home, and I kind of feel like I'm left out of those conversations. And then, when you're feeling left out, you kind of feel that you may feel that you're less valued because there is no, day-to-day confirmation on how great you're doing. You have your weekly meeting with a manager, and that's the time when you get your real feedback. So that's almost like a fear that people have, and they're not sure if they're performing well or not, just because there's nobody giving them a good look, or maybe not such a good look, or maybe a pat on the shoulder. You really are at home, and truly only your work results show your performance. So, it's not how you interact, or how you dress, or, how you make jokes and, maybe pop out for a coffee break with your colleagues. It is really the fruit of your work. And therefore, because you're focused on the fruit of your work and the results, it is really remote work models are really results-driven models. And we have seen through applying online collaboration tools, which we'll talk about later, that actually online collaboration tools are those that can track your analytics. They can show you what your staff are working on or what you're working on, which apps you're using, which project you're working on. So it kind of gives your remote CEO or remote colleagues X-ray vision on the company to see what your remote staff are doing. And we've seen that when these tools are applied and these methodologies are applied correctly, that remote teams in general boost productivity to about 20% or more. So these teams are about 20% or more productive. And also too, of course, when a person is generally happier, when they can be in control of their time and space, their happiness directly impacts their productivity.
Ya, baik itu kerja remote maupun tidak kerja remote, itu namanya konflik pasti ada, konflik internal tim. Nah, jika Anda bisa ketemuan langsung, itu mungkin manajemen konfliknya lebih mudah ya. Jadi, dan bukan hanya bisa lebih mudah menyelesaikannya, lebih mudah mencegahnya. Jadi, kita ketemu aja ya, kita bisa ngeliat gesture atau bahasa tubuh orang, bisa dengar intonasinya, itu sudah bisa mencegah terjadinya konflik ya. Tapi tidak semudah itu kalau kerjanya remote. Ya, boro-boro mau saling lihat-lihatan gitu loh, kadang ngobrol aja juga nggak bisa sering-sering ya. Nah, jadi bagaimana Igor menghadapi atau mengatasi atau mungkin mencegah konflik-konflik ini?
So now we're talking about the internal conflict between the teams. So internal conflict can happen when there is incorrect communication or insufficient systems for communication set in place. That means that you may have a team of developers that are remote, and they have their own meetings, and they have their own agendas, and they have their own roadmap. And then you have a team of marketers who are trying to get the best features out there into the market and tell potential customers on how great your product is. And then your customers go back saying we really want this feature, and then you go back to the product team and you're saying, guys, the market really, really wants this feature. What's going on? Are we going to release it or not? And then they will tell you, we've actually tested it and we've completely scrapped it and it's no longer taking place. And then you feel like, of course, somebody should have told me. So that's really common practice. I mean, especially the gap between development and marketing departments is very common gap in tech companies. And, it's really up to the kind of culture managers of the company or your HR managers to bond these teams together and to decrease internal conflict. I think a lot of it boils down to culture, and culture is, do you really see that those are Reds and you're Blues? Those are Arsenal fans and we're Manchester United fans. And I don't think it should really be like that. I think that everyone should be aligned to one particular vision and operating as one organism per se. And so internal conflicts between teams are really toxic to organizations. And so that's why in remote teams, you really need a strong culture. In the office, sometimes culture just kind of breeds itself. People stick photos on their desk, and bring in some items that, represent them, maybe some crystal or, I don't know, something maybe religious displaying on their table. And you can kind of have this, like non-spoken culture arrangement. But in the remote work world, you don't see all these things. You don't really know what the person is. You only see them like from their waist up. So culture specialists are super important, and on an early stage, if a company can't hire an HR manager or hire a people operations manager, and maybe it's not required if you only have 5 people remote, then it's really up to the CEO. It's really up to the co-founders to take special note on the friendliness of communication that happens, and of course have also non-work related time. Because you can't meet at the water cooler. You can't say, let's go out for a coffee and have a quick chat about our lives. In remote work, you're pretty much always working. So the founder of a company or the CEO has to do some kind of non-work meetings. So allow the staff to be paid for time when they can just Skype each other and talk about, the weather, I don't know, the music, any kind of news in the personal life, and it's really important. And yes, you have to pay for it, even though there is no work, not real work done. But in the long run, it will really impact, the productivity of the company if your teammates are bonded.
Masuk kemudian ke pertanyaan favorit saya ya, ke Igor, dan mungkin ke semua orang yang saya tahu kerja remote, yaitu aplikasi apa yang digunakan atau tools apa yang digunakan. Karena aplikasi itu bagi tim remote itu kayak kantor, kayak properti bagi tim yang tidak terdistribusi ya, bagi tim yang ngumpul di satu lokasi ya. Tentunya Anda akan memilih kantor yang bagus, ya lokasinya bagus, tidak macet gitu kan ya, dekat dengan mungkin transportasi umum seperti halte atau tempat stasiun kereta api atau pangkalan ojek mungkin ya, dulu kan ya. Nah, begitu juga dengan pemilihan aplikasi atau tools ya. Tanpa aplikasi yang tepat, itu kerja remote akan jauh lebih menantang daripada biasanya. Karenanya biasanya pekerja remote itu tersentralisasi dalam sebuah aplikasi atau kombinasi dari aplikasi ya. Seperti kami di Kirim Email itu menggunakan Basecamp, dan semua tim dan pekerjaan kami itu tersentralisasi di sana. Ya, jadi tidak ada yang keluar dari Basecamp. Kalaupun ada itu seperti Google Docs apa semua juga menyatu di Basecamp. Jadi tidak ada yang miss ya, tidak ada yang kecarian gitu loh ya. Nah, sama seperti kami di Kirim Email dan mungkin banyak perusahaan lain, Igor juga menggunakan kombinasi beberapa aplikasi ya. Dan uniknya, aplikasi yang digunakan Igor tidak hanya melulu sifatnya orientasi ke pekerjaan, tapi juga ada yang ke istilahnya well-being atau ke tenangan atau apa ya, kesehatan mental pekerjanya ya. Unik sekali, ini juga saya baru tahu bahwa ada aplikasi ini ya, ada layanan seperti ini yang didesain untuk mencegah anxiety itu keresahan, kegundaan, dan loneliness lah ya, kesepian dan depresi gitu loh ya. Saya juga baru tahu ada layanan seperti ini online, dan itu saya benar-benar belajar itu saat interview ini ya, sama seperti Anda mungkin ya. Ini dia detailnya apa saja aplikasi dan layanan yang digunakan Igor dan timnya.
So I mentioned the tools, and the tools are an integral part of remote teams, and they also come with an investment, and because they are not cheap. So this is something that if you're setting out to open a company and you want it to be remote, you really have to put that into the budget. Really important to have task management tools, correct communication tools. When I'm talking about task management, it can be like Todoist, it can be like Asana. Then a lot of teams use time tracking, and time tracking, it's very simple, where your boss can basically see, or you can see as a boss your staff, what they're working on and what time they clocked in, what time they clocked out. Some of the most common tools for tracking time on particular tasks are Time Doctor, Toggle, Get Harvest, and I mean there's a bunch of others, and many teams use them. And especially these tools are great at the early stage when a person is just introduced to the company. Maybe for the first 3 months you're not really sure if the person is really working when they're at home, and you just hired them. So if you want to have a peace of mind what they're doing and when they're doing that, you really are recommended to install a time tracking tool. And maybe after you've been satisfied that yes, they are really working 8 hours per day, and if they're customer support, they have fixed times when each one has to sit in, evening shift, morning shift. But in many other departments, you can really choose when you want to work and how you want to work. So it's really important for you as a founder to see if those total hours that were signed in the contract are actually being fulfilled. And after about 3-4 months, you can get rid of the time tracking tool, because now you trust that person is really aligned with the vision, and he's kind of like being a mini CEO. So he's really taking ownership of his area that he's responsible for. And of course, communication tools. Slack, Zoom, Skype, Google Hangouts, whatever really is the product you prefer. It's really important to have those tools in place. Many companies adopt policies on how you do video meetings. Very often, again, this is my experience, but with development teams, they don't really want to switch on the camera when they're having a team meeting. And some companies kind of have it as a policy to force everyone to use video. This is one time per day when you have to, go put your t-shirt on and maybe clean up the background of your workstation if you're at home. It actually gives you an opportunity to keep your workstation clean if you have a video on, so nobody can see the mess around you. Do your hair up, put on the video, and that will not only develop trust when you're looking into someone's eyes, but also it really helps that culture we just spoke about. So communication tools are super important, and of course there are many HR tools. Like I think Know Your Company is a great tool used by remote teams, where you will just have questions asked about your company, and you can give feedback on your company. Everyone can exchange their ideas, and so then there is a tool. There are tools like Joyable, tackling the issue of loneliness. Joyable is actually given by a lot of remote teams access to everyone in the company. So if they feel like they're lonely, they can use Joyable to select one of the psychiatrists, for example, and you can just jump on a 15-minute call with them and be like, hey, I've got this issue. I feel lonely. I feel like I'm not worthy of something, and I feel like I'm not aligned. And so there are a bunch of other tools that you can use to make sure your employees are happy. Of course, like we live in the Google suite, so the Google Docs, Google Sheets. These are really integral for collaborating on documents. So we stopped using Microsoft Word attachments. It's just unproductive. Like if you write a document and then you attach it to the email and you send it to someone, and that someone has to download the file, and then maybe some formatting will be lost because they have an older version of Microsoft Word, and then they edit that file and then they send it back to you, and then you have to accept the changes or maybe look for the changes where they are. So it's really unproductive. So like with Google Docs, everything happens live, and during a meeting you typically have during a remote team meeting, you typically have a Google Doc open, which is like your minutes of the meeting, or your agenda for today's meeting, and everyone can see the video in Zoom or whatever you're using, and as well as they can see the doc, and so you can complete some of the questions that you want to ask during the meeting, and so that way everyone is accountable, and when the meeting is finished you can always open the doc again, and collaborate that way on the same document. So that's really useful.
Selanjutnya adalah bagaimana merekrut tim. Ini proses yang sangat penting, dan saya melihat banyak sekali perbedaan metode ya yang digunakan oleh founder-founder atau orang-orang yang membangun perusahaan secara remote ya. Ada banyak sekali metode, dan metode Igor menurut saya juga berbeda ya. Ada satu hal yang belum pernah saya lakukan, yang ia lakukan, yaitu dia membuat semacam kuesioner atau survei. Jadi selain ya CV ya, selain dia menerima CV, surat lamaran, kualifikasi dan lain-lain seperti biasa, ada semacam survei yang ia berikan ke orang yang lamar pekerjaan, yang dimana nanti hasil survei itu ya ada beberapa pertanyaan dalamnya yang nanti akan digunakan untuk evaluasi apakah memang orang ini cocok. Jadi setelah skillnya tercapai, skillnya terpenuhi ya, setelah semuanya cocok, hasil survei ini akan menentukan apakah orang ini cocok atau enggak untuk jangka panjang ya. Jadi di kami di Kirim.email ini belum ada, jadi sama juga, ini saya juga insight yang bagus menurut saya baru belajar tentang ini. Jadi biasanya kami kalau ada orang lamar itu kita tes ya, jika hasil tesnya bagus maka akan kita hire, lalu kita edukasi tentang kultur bekerja remote di dalam Kirim.email setelah dia masuk ya. Jadi tapi di sisi Igor itu sebelum dia masuk itu sudah semacam dikasih tahu dulu bahwa ada semacam kualifikasi tertentu yang harus terpenuhi ya, selain apa ya, selain kecocokan CV dan lain-lain, tapi ada juga beberapa hal yang harus dijawab dengan tepat ya. Dari situ akan dinilai apakah orang ini akan cocok ke kultur kerja dalam perusahaan ini atau tidak ya. Jadi apa aja itu surveinya dan bagaimana Igor merekrut secara umum. Ini dia, langsung aja Igor akan menjelaskan.
So in terms of recruiting and managing teams, recruiting is a special one, and at Running Remote, we put a big accent on hiring remote staff because it's a separate kind of game. You know, to know what questions do you need to ask, what kind of traits are you looking for. Some companies have specific kind of questionnaires or survey that they do with you, even if you are, if your CV shows that you worked for, I don't know, 5 years, in your role for companies that are well known. If you have never worked remotely, that doesn't mean that you're going to be the best for the job. And so the survey sometimes has questions like, how many children do you live with? How many rooms do you have in your house? What is the connection speed of your internet? How big is your screen? Do you have any pets? Do you have anybody helping you with your kids and your pets? And so these are really all important questions to consider because, again, there are a lot of people who do live with families and do live with kids, and for them, working from home is just not going to work. So then you may look like, oh, I want to hire this person, but, they're going to be difficult to work at home, so maybe the company will provide them a stipend, a little bit of money every month, like a fixed fee, that will allow them to go and get a membership pass in a co-working space close to their home, where they can still be remote but be in an office environment. So hiring somebody in a remote team requires you to look at particular characteristics within that person, and one of those is, of course, a self-starter, self-motivated people that you feel that don't need a lot of guidance. You can really give them a task and they go away and do it. And if they have some questions, they will ask you, rather than you giving them, a whole description of the task and being next to them in the office where they can constantly ask you those questions. So you really need to have self-starters. You need to have self-motivated and self-disciplined people. Communication is another crucial aspect. There are a lot of professionals who have bad communication skills. And by bad communication skills, I mean, for example, they don't respond to your messages, or maybe when they respond, they're making punctuation mistakes and grammatical mistakes. And so, because communication is so important in remote teams, you want to be sure that that person is a good communicator. If they have an issue, that during a call, in a couple of minutes, they can explain that issue clearly, rather than, again, when you're in an office, you can, talk for 5 minutes, like thousands of words and explain the same thing. You don't have that opportunity in remote work. So you have to look for excellent communicators. So what are some of the other things that you look when hiring remote staff? I mean, of course, like it's best to hire somebody who has worked remotely, or maybe somebody who has been a freelancer, and somebody who believes in remote work. So just ask them, like at the beginning of the interview, would you rather work in the office or do you want to be remote? And if they apply for a remote job, but they actually would rather be in the office, then they might not be the best person for you. We actually have a YouTube channel, Running Remote YouTube channel, which is got a lot of free content, and it has a couple of videos where we talk about hiring remote staff, and in general a lot of remote team issues that we kind of give tips on how to solve. So I suggest you check it out.
Oke, selanjutnya saya menanyakan yang banyak juga ditanyakan ke saya ya. Sehari-harinya perusahaan yang remote itu seperti apa sih? Kalau sehari-harinya orang yang berkantor itu kan, atau perusahaan yang memiliki sebuah kantor itu kan jelas ya. Datang itu jam 8 pagi atau jam 9 misalnya, lalu pulang jam 5 gitu ya. Kalau ada lembur ya lembur. Nah, kalau perusahaan yang orang-orang nggak ketemuan ini sehari-harinya ngapain? Ya karena di Kirim.email kita bekerja itu jamnya masing-masing. Ya, ada yang mungkin seperti saya, startnya pagi, jam 6 pagi saya sudah mulai kerja ya, dan saya berhenti itu biasanya sekitar jam 10, jam 11 itu saya berhenti untuk istirahat, ya sholat zuhur, mungkin ngapain lah gitu ya. Lalu saya biasa mulai lagi itu setelah asar gitu, itu jam 3, setengah 4 sore saya baru start kerja lagi sedikit, berhenti lagi waktu maghrib, dan kemudian mulai lagi tuh malam kalau ada yang mungkin tersisa ya. Biasanya sih malam setelah anak-anak tidur gitu, itu saya lanjut gitu ya. Kalau masih pengen kerja itu pun saya, kalau enggak saya juga tidur juga bareng anak-anak biasanya. Ya, dan ini polanya nggak berlaku ke semua orang di dalam tim saya. Saya orang yang lebih produktif menurut saya kerjanya pagi. Ada di tim kita di Kirim.email yang baru bisa mulai kerja itu malam malah ya. Kalau dihubungin pagi-pagi itu nggak jawab, nggak ngerespon, orang belum bangun mungkin, atau mungkin belum bekerja gitu ya, belum on ya. Sedangkan kalau dihubungin abis maghrib itu lancar banget, baru di chat udah bales 2 detik kemudian udah bales gitu ya. Ada yang seperti itu di kita ya. Jadi masing-masing ya. Jadi masing-masing jam kerjanya mulainya itu masing-masing, berakhirnya masing-masing. Ada yang terputus seperti saya di tengah ya. Saya biasa kalau meeting juga itu biasanya abis zuhur, saya jarang banget ngajakin meeting itu pagi, karena pagi itu jam kerja saya banget ya. Kecuali mungkin darurat ya. Jadwalnya si rekan meeting saya itu nggak sesuai ya. Nah, bagaimana dari sisi Igor ya? Bagaimana Igor mengelola timnya? Karena ya tidak ada yang sama ya. Setiap perusahaan itu pola kerjanya nggak ada yang sama. Jadi Igor bisa menjelaskan dengan sangat baik di pertanyaan ini ya. Ini Igor, saya akan serahkan ke Igor untuk menjelaskannya secara langsung pada Anda.
So the typical workday in a fully distributed company is different for everyone. Like I said, you have departments which have fixed schedules. You know, customer support, you always need somebody there responding to, like a minute or two to respond to a customer support ticket. So they will have a fixed schedule. So when it comes to me, I actually don't have a schedule. So I create my own schedule, how I am most comfortable with. And the best thing about remote work, like one of the totally best things for me, is that when I was in office from 9 to 5, I was unable to do my life routine things, for example, like going to the bank, or maybe calling my telecommunication company because of an issue I have with the bill, because I'm in an office until 9 to 5. And when 5 p.m. strikes and I'm out of the office, the company that I needed to go to, or I don't know, make a photocopy or go to the doctor's appointment or do something with my kids, those companies are already closed. So then I have to take a day off, and that counts towards my salary. So the best thing about remote work for me is that I can have my free time during the day. So what I do is I wake up at maybe 7 o'clock. and around 8 a.m. I'm already working. And then I work for 4 hours, which is half a day, until 12. So by 12 o'clock, I'm pretty much done with half a day, and I can begin doing my daily things, maybe go to see some friends, go to the bank, whatever issues that I have to do during the day, I get them done by before 6 p.m. And then at 6 p.m., so basically I have a whole day for free from 12 to 6. And at 6 p.m., I'm back at my computer and I work another 4 hours from 6 to 10. So that's how I structure my day. It's some people might not like it because you're pretty much working all day long. Because I, as a founder of a company, of course, you're pretty much always available, which is, one of the dramas that founders have, unable to disconnect from your company. And that's something that I have experience with, but I'm always on my phone. And even if I'm in town at midday or 2 p.m. and I've got some messages coming in, I can be in the queue, to a post office, and I can be answering those questions. I don't have to be in the office, I don't have to be in front of my computer. And so it really depends how you want to structure it. But in remote work, you're constantly sitting in front of the computer, so you are really dependent on technology. You really are dependent on devices, and it's not good for your eyes. It's not good for your posture. It's generally not good for the ergonomics, of your body to spend too many prolonged hours in front of any device, be it iPad or computer or laptop or telephone. And so I recommend doing 2-hour sprints. So, every 2 hours, just make sure that you take a break. And that's where actually time tracking helps me, because sometimes it's really difficult to keep track of time. You sometimes you're doing something really boring and time is dragging, and you're like, I started work at 8 a.m. and now it's already 9 a.m., but it feels like I worked all day. And sometimes you're doing something super exciting, and you're on fire and you're in an amazing mood, and you start work at 8 a.m. and then you realize like you've done so much, but it's only like 10 a.m. and you're like, wow, I've already done so much. So how do you keep track of your own time and don't overwork or underwork? And that's when time tracking comes in. So for me, I start my day, I'm like, I'm gonna work now for 2-hour sprint. So I just click play on a time tracker, whichever time tracker you choose, and it just shows you how many minutes and seconds you worked for, and it can show you how many what tasks were you working on and what apps were you using. And then when the 2-hour strikes again, I click stop, and I go out from my work zone and I go for a walk or, do some exercise. And so I really recommend to be a little bit, organized in terms of your work day, and definitely don't try to stretch your 8-hour work day into the whole day, like working half an hour here, then half an hour there, and half an hour here, because then you have a feeling that you're always working. And that's another issue that remote workers do have. Like the time management is an issue, and many people are still mastering that. Even a lot of successful people are still mastering that. They think that you always have to work, and the more you work, the more productive you'll be. But actually, it can be the opposite. If you do the right things at the right time, and don't just do everything what's possible, then you might have more space for your own life and achieve the same results.
Selanjutnya saya menanyakan apa itu running remote, konferensinya ya. Lalu apa yang membuat running remote berbeda, apa aja isinya, siapa aja pembicaranya. Nah, di sini Igor akan menjelaskan secara detail, dan jika Anda dan saya menyarankan ya Anda datang hadir ke acara ini ya. Mayoritas karena nanti beberapa alasan yang akan disampaikan oleh Igor ya. Jadi ini once in a lifetime opportunity, mungkin kesempatan sekali seumur hidup untuk menyaksikan bagaimana perusahaan-perusahaan kelas dunia beroperasi dengan tim yang tersebar ya dari puluhan negara ya. Ada yang sampai perusahaannya itu mengelola ribuan orang ya, 1.100 orang kalau nggak salah, ntar akan dijelaskan sama Igor ya. Bayangin ya, 1.000-an orang itu bebas dari lokasi ya, bisa bekerja dari ratusan lokasi ya. Dan bagaimana mengelolanya itu kan luar biasa sekali ya. Silakan Anda dengarkan penjelasan dari Igor tentang running remote di sini.
Everything I'm talking about is covered at Running Remote. Running Remote is a conference that's taking place in Bali, and it's in its second year now. And it's everything you need to know about running a remote team or growing your remote team. So the conference is in Bali because I'm in Bali and I love Bali, and for me, I love Indonesia, but I just landed in Bali and I really enjoy being here. Really good internet space, a lot of interesting people, many co-working spaces. So it kind of was like a logical reason to make a conference here. However, next year we might be moving the conference to other continents because for some people, for example, from USA and Europe, it's a bit too far to travel. So maybe we will bring the conference to them. But what we do at the conference is we invite speakers who are very successful in running distributed companies, and a lot of topics are covered. The speakers are, everyone focuses on a particular topic on the agenda, and it's a 2-day event where you basically go in and you learn a lot and you socialize with these top people. Director of support from Shopify can be one of the directors of GitHub, came last year at Atlassian, and this year we have Help Scout, we have AngelList, we have Dribbble, Todoist. So all of these are $100 million annual recurring revenue companies and beyond, who are without an office. And some of them are just as small as 30 people, which is really fascinating. Like, you don't need to have 90 people to be at 100 million ARR. You can actually do it smaller amount of people, just everyone is super productive and sits in the right place. So you have all these different perspectives from how companies are being run. Some founders are against time tracking. They think time tracking is like prison, is like Big Brother. It's really bad. And then other companies are saying like there's no way that we will be able to hire all of that stuff from somewhere like Philippines while I am based in Indonesia or elsewhere without having time tracking. And some people believe that communication has to be synchronous, and synchronous meaning that it's you get a message in Slack and you're like, I have to reply to it straight away, and then you're in constant reply mode. So again, like as a founder, you're always working. Whereas there's other speakers who believe that communication should be asynchronous in remote teams. So because you have your own schedule, you don't want to be receiving all these work messages that you have to reply to when you're with your children in the evening. So you can choose apps like Twist, which are focused on being asynchronous. So you don't have this constant buzzing, and all these notifications and feel guilty that you need to reply to them. You really just open the app when you're working and you can see all the messages. So the conference really is interesting because it covers everything that's related to remote work in different perspectives. And we are the first and the only conference in the world that is focused on educating founders on how to build and scale remote teams. There are many conferences for digital nomads. There are many conferences for, break out from 9 to 5 and stop working for somebody and start your own business. But we really are not really about that. We are more for, kind of serious people who want to run a business and they want to do it agile. They want to do it, they want to do it fast and they want to scale. And one of the prerequisites for that is understanding how to hire remotely. So you keep your costs low. You have access to international talent and international ideas from all over the world, and maybe sometimes cheaper labor. And again, you don't have to invest in an office or into commuting, which is all very costly. So yeah, the conference is it's a place where people go to learn, and there is not so much information. It is still fairly new trend in the world, in the professional world, working remotely and having fully distributed teams. For a lot of companies, it still seems very wild, and there are even companies that have tried it and then they decided it doesn't work for them, like Bank of America or like IBM. These companies have thought like, oh, this is great. I don't have to pay for an office anymore. And in America, these offices are probably very expensive. Let me, send everyone home. And then they haven't thought about that the management has to be different. Your culture, which I mentioned earlier, has to be really concrete. And without the correct processes in place, without the correct culture in place, you really are taking a big risk by going remote. So that's why it didn't work out for these companies, and they said, no more remote work, you all go back to the office. And of course a lot of people just resigned after that because they had a flavor of freedom, and then that freedom was taken away from them again. So they can't spend time with their kids. Their kids are growing up while they're in an office, and so they resigned. So it really is important. And I just also mentioned processes. I didn't want to miss on that topic. But processes is creating correct processes and concrete processes is really important when you're hiring remotely as well, and when you're running a remote team. So you need to have everything documented. You need to have everything in place in terms of what happens first, second, and third. I don't know. For example, how do you submit a bug, or how do you create a landing page, or how do you execute an advertising campaign? And because you don't have this person next to you, like you do in an office, where you'd be like, hey, Fikri, can you remind me again, like, what do we do? Where did I get the graphics for this ad? Which folder is it in? I can't remember. Is it Google Drive? You can't do that in a remote workspace. So then you go to a document, which a founder of a company like Fikri, for example, has created for you. And then you go into the document and you're like, okay, so to launch an ad, first, open this folder. Second, get your assets. Third, make sure your ETM links are there. So processes are ultra important in remote workspace. Otherwise, you'll have people doing it the way they think is right, and the way they think is right is not always right. So, initiative and enthusiasm is, of course, an amazing thing to have amongst your employees, but also ensure that they have processes for something that's recurring. So some of the topics that are going to be covered at Running Remote, we have a website, runningremote.com, and there is a schedule. And some of the topics that we're covering, I'm just going to go through them. So, for example, AngelList, head of HR. He was the CTO and the co-founder of Product Hunt, both successful remote companies. AngelList, he's going to be talking about how to manage remote engineering teams of about 20 people. So how to manage small engineering or development teams. Then we will talk about company structuring and decentralized finance. A lot of people don't understand, how do you structure a company? How do I legalize my remote company, and in which country? Shall I go for a residency, or maybe I can open a company remotely in America while I'm an Indonesian founder? What is best for me? Where do I pay my taxes? What kind of labor law contracts do I have to provide? Is it full-time employment, or do I put everyone on a contractor contract, like a subcontractor, even if they're full-time? So that's going to be covered in the company structuring and decentralized finance workshop. We have Mural. Mural is an online design collaboration tool used by designers who are remote, and so they have a shared space online. There are some other companies that do it, like InVision, but Mural is at our event, and they're great. So they will be talking about remote online collaboration. We have a session on hiring international remote workers. Shopify, which is a very famous e-commerce company, their director of support, who manages 1,400 remote workers all over the world, which is the biggest remote team that we have seen at our conference so far. They'll be talking about how they went from 0 to 1,400 employees remotely in just 3 years. It's quite amazing. We will have a panel discussion of venture capital firms. So, venture capital firms have been a little bit skeptical towards remote companies because when they invest money, typically the classical thinking was like, I'm investing in a company and I know if I ever want to check on my investments and check on my team, I can just go into a particular address and see them. With remote work, you can't because everyone is all over the world. Like, how do you control that? So VCs have not been investing heavily in remote work, but in distributed companies. But there have been quite a lot of companies that have been funded that are remote. So our panel discussion is going to be by 500 startups, and it's going to be by Morgan Creek Capital, somebody who helped grow Snapchat and Facebook, and now is a heavy investor. And they both believe in opportunities within remote companies to invest into, because, like I said, most teams, most modern teams are in one way or another remote. Actually, even to confirm that, I don't know if the listeners have heard about Singularity University. You probably have Singularity University in America, and so they have a compulsory module for their accelerator program, which is how to run a remote team. So they believe that if you are going through an accelerator program with your startup idea that you want to launch, you absolutely have to know how to manage a remote team. Because if you don't manage a remote team, you will lose a lot of funds and time on having a co-located environment. And then we have another super interesting talk, actually, a company that has won SpaceX competition with Elon Musk. They're called R-Loop, using a Hyperloop technology. So this is the futuristic transport with the help of the Bohr company that they have in America. So everyone goes into a capsule and they can be transported at 760 miles per hour to another city in just a couple of minutes. So this is the future of technology, and they have assembled this prototype, which is this huge, tunnel, and it's this huge capsule, which it's kind of like a train, but it moves without friction. So it moves with the help of air. It's really interesting technology. So they have a team of more than 1,000 engineers all over the world who have been shipping parts to each other. They don't have an office, they don't have a laboratory. I think now they do, actually, but the way they started was, and still operate today largely, is sending these parts to each other by post, which is really, really amazing. And they have won this competition, and they're going to talk about the future of transport and how they manage all their team. Not only a team of engineers, but the other interesting part is that they use blockchain for their project management software. So I'm really interested to listen to that talk. And then we have a co-working panel and a couple of other interesting things. And e-residency is going to be a big topic at the event, and whether it works for Indonesians or not. We actually have an Indonesian e-resident, Asep. His name is Asep, and he's going to be talking about how has e-residency helped him start a business from Indonesia. So he has a business in Estonia but lives in Indonesia, so he's going to be attending. One of the co-founders of WooCommerce and WooThemes, which powers around 30% of e-commerce websites on the whole of the internet. He's coming as well, and he's going to talk about culture. So we have really, really powerful talks. Really excited about this year's conference. We have a lot of Indonesian companies coming this year. So last year mainly it was Australia and New Zealand, and right now we have quite a lot of Indonesians and in general Southeast Asia. So to give you a breakdown, we have 39.2% of our attendees are Southeast Asia, 25.2% is United States, Australia and New Zealand is 13%, and Europe is 16%. The rest is the rest of the world. And the most popular company where tickets are being bought from is US and Canada. So we have a lot of people coming from Silicon Valley It's an exciting place to come and meet people. You know, because we're in Bali, it's not really like a scary conference. You know, where everybody is wearing a suit and tie and being very serious. You know, we're very relaxed, even though our content is, you know, very high level. The speakers are always available. We don't have any VIP area. So, you know, if you go to the speaker page, you can see the people that you'll be hanging out with. And we have 2 hours per day dedicated just for networking, which means that, you know, you can go up to a speaker that you like and just ask them problems or questions that you have in your company, and they will be happy to answer those questions. It's an amazing place to network. And that's what maybe 50% of our attendees are coming for that reason, as well as education. But networking is super powerful. You never know how far this relationship can take you, you know, with somebody you have met in a unique place like Bali. And everything happens at Sofitel Nusa Dua Beach Resort, which is a luxury resort. And we have an amazing auditorium right on the beach. So of course it's air conditioned, but it has glass. So you're looking at the stage and you're looking at the ocean at the same time. And we have an evening program, and we have a fantastic chef's buffet. And so that's something to get excited about. What makes running remote different is running remote realized that in order to gain reputation on the market and kind of position ourselves as this place that people want to go to, or that they have to go to, that they cannot miss, basically having an authority, was focus on getting the best of the best minds and speakers at our conference. And we have done well at that so far. So, you know, there are many companies that are starting to do remote work. And many of them want to speak at our conference, but we have very high speaking criteria, and so some of these companies have been amazing. Actually, one of the companies has even been you might know this company. It's called Expensify, and Expensify are one of the biggest tools and apps for submitting your expenses and receipts, and their CEO wanted to speak. The company is ultra successful, but they have a very small remote team. So we said no, and I hope that was the right decision. But you know, we say no to companies that don't have more than 40 plus remote team size. Has to be 40 and beyond full-time remote stuff, and they have to be doing 8-figure ARR. Or they have to be coming from a recognizable brand or company like such as Shopify. So what makes us different is the high quality of speakers that we get onto the stage. We also have a lot of free content. You know, we have a free podcast, of course free. We have a podcast, we have a YouTube channel, we have a blog. You can check out all of this on our website.
Oke, dan terakhir ya, ini sesuai janji ya, di sini Igor akan menjelaskan bagaimana Anda bisa mendapatkan diskon khusus ya tentang running remote khusus untuk pendengar Kepo ya. Nanti akan dijelaskan sama Igor di belakang. Tapi di sini di pertanyaan terakhir saya menanyakan tentang orang-orang yang skeptis. Ya, jadi selama 3 tahun saya membangun kirim.email remote dari awal ya. Saya hampir belum pernah ya, kecuali mungkin satu orang ya. Mas Anggi Krishna Kontenesia. Selain itu saya belum pernah ketemu orang yang langsung semangat positif gitu. Oh, ini akan berhasil, enggak ya. Hampir 99% mungkin lah ya, termasuk satu orang yang saya sebut tadi ya. Itu saat saya bilang bikinlah tim remote, itu akan skeptis duluan. Ini reaksi pertama ya. Artinya banyak orang yang setelah reaksi pertama ini kemudian akhirnya memutuskan untuk bikin tim remote ya. Dan kemudian berhasil ya. Tapi reaksi pertamanya itu skeptis dulu. Nggak bisa mas, ntar kalau orangnya kabur gimana? Ntar kalau ini gimana, itu gimana? Wong berkantor aja bisa apa kok mas, bisa hilang, apalagi nggak berkantor gitu ya. Dan banyak lagi hal skeptis lain. Dan yang paling kalau sudah melibatkan faktor eksternal ya, contoh misalnya di Indonesia belum siap mas infrastrukturnya segala macam ya. Itu sudah skalanya sudah nasional gitu ya. Nah, ini saya teruskan pertanyaan ini ke Igor ya. Bagaimana kalau saat ini di depannya ya, berdiri seorang yang skeptis tentang kerja remote di Indonesia. Bagaimana ini akan bisa berhasil di Indonesia seperti di negara-negara yang sudah memiliki infrastruktur yang lebih matang ya, seperti negara Amerika dan Eropa ya. Nah, ternyata alhamdulillah Igor share atau memiliki kesamaan pemikiran positif dengan saya bahwa ini akan mendorong perekonomian Indonesia, ini akan berhasil di Indonesia. Dan kenapa? Karena buat saya ini cocok sekali di Indonesia ya, malah ya. Indonesia negara maritim yang dimana saat Anda ingin misalnya dari Bandung ke Medan itu Anda nggak bisa nyetir sepanjang jalan ya, Anda harus naik kapal paling tidak atau naik pesawat ya. Berbeda dengan negara-negara seperti Amerika yang dari ujung ke ujung itu bisa menggunakan highway gitu kan, menggunakan jalan tol. Di Indonesia Anda tidak bisa melakukannya. Anda terputus oleh laut yang bukan cuma laut biasa ya, itu Laut Cina Selatan gitu kan ya, yang luas sekali gitu loh. Jadi memang menantang ya. Nah, karenanya negara maritim ini bisa disatukan jika Anda membangun sebuah perusahaan yang berbasis kerja remote yang sangat matang, yang sangat bagus ya, yang terencana dengan matang dan bagus ya. Nah, di sini Anda akan mendengar penjelasan yang sangat bagus dari Igor bagaimana ia akan menghadapi skeptis ini ya, orang-orang skeptis ini. Dan mungkin Anda juga salah satunya, jika Anda dengar ini dan Anda masih ada sisa, wah ini nggak bisa nih bagi perusahaan saya kan XYZ gitu ya. Nah, Anda silakan dengar penjelasan yang sangat luar biasa bagus dari Igor dan akan ditutup oleh Igor dengan pemberian kupon ya. Kupon diskon running remote. Ini harga yang luar biasa yang mungkin tidak ingin Anda lewatkan ya. Orang lain bayar $849 ya. Ini Anda sudah dapat potongan setengah harganya, dipotong lagi 20% ya. Bagaimana caranya Anda dengarkan di akhir penjelasan Igor berikut ini.
So it's really interesting to see, Indonesian companies now becoming actually interested in the remote workspace, and I think that it's really going to be fueling the economy of Indonesia. It is undeniable that we have to learn from those that are doing it already, and for us, most of the thought leadership or people who think about how to make remote work are based in the US, and so the whole world is kind of learning from what the US is doing, very advanced in technology. So I think in order for Indonesian companies to kind of expand into remote workspace, we have to start collaborating with United States and companies that are doing it there, and so I think there's a bright future, and I think the only way to do it is just learn from the best. Do not try and just kind of do it at home by yourself. Really, the biggest advice is if you want to start building a distributed company or distributed team, ask advice. And a lot of people like Amir, founder of Todoist, Nick from Help Scout, they love answering questions. They love helping out. So collaborate. Get in touch with them. They will help you out. And of course, if not at the conference, you can just reach out to them. Maybe from some other means, that whatever you can find. And so yes, there is a lot of skepticism to remote work, and there is a lot of skepticism in developing countries because of the kind of dogma, that how we we're used to doing business in particular ways, and digitalization is something that is all over us. It's everywhere, and we cannot avoid it. And people are using technology much more and more to make work happen and to make their lives happen. So it's undeniable that we have to change the way we work, and the future of work holds a lot of interesting things are to come, and one of them being fully distributed companies. And I don't think it's going to be the norm, because I think hybrid is also a really interesting model, but I do think that 90% of all the world's companies will at one point or the other hire remotely or have remote teams. And that's why you have right now the industry of remote work has a lot of job platforms, hiring developers remotely, and so that industry is quite saturated. So it just shows that employees are happier. One of the, I think the LinkedIn Global Trends report of 2018, it showed that work flexibility was more important for people looking for work rather than salary or interesting company or anything like that. So work flexibility was the number one priority for millennials in particular, for those who are graduating university. So this is something inevitable, and Indonesia will be remote in many areas, and I think the sooner that you guys are starting to run and try out remote work, you will realize whether it fits you or not. And this question is quite interesting. Like, if there's a skeptic in front of you telling you that distributed teams don't work in developing countries, what do you tell them? I mean, one thing I can say is that it doesn't really matter if it's a country like Indonesia or a country like United Kingdom. There is skepticism everywhere, and like I just gave you examples earlier on of Bank of America and even IBM and American companies are skeptical towards it. Skepticism comes from something new. It is completely normal when there is something new, like blockchain and Bitcoin, for example. So many skeptics out there because it's something new. Whatever is new, when the steam engines came out, everybody thought that they're going to explode, and it was highly skeptical. No, we're going to use horses. Horses don't explode. And now everybody is driving cars and super happy about that. So skepticism is normal. The only way to kind of chase away those skepticism clouds is education. Start by educating yourselves. And of course, there are some online materials, there are some articles you can read online, but to be honest with you, there is not so much. And that's why our conference exists, and that's why we have 400 people coming to our event, because there is just no other information available. And we are quite an expensive conference because, like I told you, we're at Sofitel Nusa Dua Resort. But we really want you guys to come and join us and join the rest of Indonesian teams. We have teams flying from Surabaya, from Jakarta, from Bali, from Bandung. We have a lot of different Indonesian companies coming, and we offer them special rates. We offer, I think the ticket is now $850, and for Indonesians we offer $420, so it's actually like half price. But because you have stayed so patient and listened to the end of this podcast, which is coming to an end now, I have a special giveaway for you. On behalf of Kirim Email and Running Remote, we would like to offer you additional discount, 20% off. So it will be $420 minus 20% off if you use a coupon during checkout. And the coupon is Kirim Email, just one word, small letters, and you will have access to, like 60% discount or more from the total ticket price, and just come over. If you have any questions about the event, you can message us anywhere you want. You can message me, Igor at runningremote.com. Igor is spelled with an E, not with an I, so EGOR at runningremote.com. You can also message us on Facebook page, and you can also ask any questions from Fikri, and I'll be able to pick those up. So guys, I really hope that you will find the time to make it to Bali, and we really would like to see you. If you are struggling with the finances, but you feel that this is going to really impact you in a big way, then please just write me a message. My goal is not to make money. My goal is to grow a community and help each other out. And I have seen amazing things that remote work has done in developing countries, and just changed people's lives, dramatically. Remote worker and founders. The website is runningremote.com. Coupon is Kirim email. So when you go to the buy ticket page, you will find it says tekan di sini untuk harga orang Indonesia, and enter the coupon Kirim email, and you will have an even lower price than anybody else in Indonesia has, because you guys are special and we love you. Fikri, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It was a great chat. I hope to see you in Bali. All right, guys. All the best. Bye-bye.
Ya, itu dia obrolan saya dengan Igor ya, dari Running Remote ya. Jadi jika Anda ingin langsung mendaftar setelah ini, silahkan. Sebenarnya sudah ada formulir pendaftaran khusus untuk orang Indonesia ya, itu bisa Anda akses di kirim.email_RR ya, singkatan dari Running Remote. Jadi Anda ke kirim.email_RR, 2 huruf R sebelah-sebelahan ya, kirim.email_RR. Itu nanti Anda akan dibawa ke sebuah halaman pendaftaran khusus orang Indonesia ya. Dan Anda bisa menggunakan kode kupon kirim email, semua huruf kecil, tanpa spasi, tanpa titik ya, kirim email, untuk mendapatkan lagi tambahan diskon sebesar 20%. Jadi harganya udah dipotong setengah, dipotong lagi 20%, khusus untuk Anda ya. Jadi Anda tinggal datang 2 hari networking. Dan saya dengar juga dari Igor, kabarnya perusahaan-perusahaan besar dari Indonesia sekarang sudah mulai datang ke event ini untuk kemudian serius membangun tim remote ya. Jadi jika tahun lalu, jika sebelum-sebelumnya mayoritas kebanyakan yang datang dari perusahaan-perusahaan luar semua gitu kan ya, yang Indonesia paling cuman di bawah 10% ya. Sekarang perusahaan Indonesia jauh lebih banyak yang datang. Dan seperti biasa Anda juga bisa ngobrol lah dengan perusahaan-perusahaan dari luar ya, dari Australia katanya juga banyak, dari New Zealand, dari Amerika, dari Eropa Timur ya. Jadi silakan datang Bali 2 hari ya. Daftar ke runningremote.com langsung atau ke kirim.email_RR untuk Anda yang pengen langsung daftar ya. Dan gunakan kode kupon kirim email untuk mendapatkan diskon khusus karena Anda sudah mendengarkan sampai habis podcast sepanjang 1 jam 20-an menit ini ya. Terima kasih Igor. Jika Anda ingin bertanya langsung ke Igor, tadi Igor sudah ngasih kontak yang semua detail ya. Saya biasa ngobrol sama Igor dari Facebook ya. Dan semua yang saya sebutkan di sini, semua link yang saya sebutkan, kode kupon, link pendaftaran, semua bisa Anda akses di kepo.blog_48 ya. Silakan langsung ke situ untuk versi percakapan bahasa Indonesia juga ya. Silakan ke kepo.blog_48 ya. Saya Fikri Fatullah, mewakili tim Running Remote, terima kasih, dan tim kirim.email juga ya. Semoga bisa ketemu di Bali untuk acara Running Remote. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.